The old salvage ship Lucky Finder drifted slowly through the empty space. Its metal hull was scratched and dented from years of hard work. Inside, Da-Ho Kim wiped sweat from his forehead as he fixed a broken air filter. His strong hands moved with care, tightening the last bolt before closing the panel. There. Should work fine now, he said to himself. Da-Ho was the ship's mechanic. He could fix almost anything. He was not very tall, but his arms were strong from years of working with heavy tools. His black hair was cut short, and his eyes showed both kindness and tiredness. The ship's intercom buzzed. Da-Ho, come to the bridge. Now. It was Captain Jun's voice. Da-Ho put his tools away and walked through the narrow hallways of the ship. The Lucky Finder was small compared to military ships, but it was perfect for finding old, abandoned ships to salvage. That's how Captain Jun and his crew made their living, finding things others had left behind. When Da-Ho reached the bridge, he saw Captain Jun and Hyun, the ship's navigator, looking at a screen. What's wrong? Da-Ho asked. Captain Jun pointed at the screen. Hyun found something strange. About 2 hours away. Hyun, a thin man with glasses, nodded. It's a ship, but not like any I've seen before. It's just floating there. No power, no signals. And it's big, much bigger than our ship. Captain Jun stroked his short beard. Could be a good find. If it has valuable tech, we could make enough money to fix our ship properly. Da-Ho looked at the blurry image on the screen. The strange ship had an unusual shape, curved like a crescent moon, with odd bumps and towers along its hull. Is it safe? Da-Ho asked. Captain Jun laughed. Since when do we care about safe? We care about getting paid. But then his face turned serious. But you're right to ask. Hyun, any signs of life? Hyun shook his head. No power signatures. No heat. Nothing moving. It's dead in space. Then we check it out, Captain Jun decided. Da-Ho, get your tools ready. Hyun, plot a course. 2 hours later, the Lucky Finder pulled alongside the mysterious ship. Up close, it was even stranger looking. Its hull was made of a dark material that seemed to swallow light. Strange symbols were carved into its side. Definitely not human-made, Kyung said. He was the security officer, a man with broad shoulders and a gun always at his side. Could be from the Orion Alliance. But I've never seen them build like this. The 5 crew members gathered in the airlock room, putting on their spacesuits. Besides Da-Ho, Captain Jun, Hyun, and Kyung, there was also Ta-Won, the ship's doctor. Remember, Captain Jun said, we're looking for technology, materials, anything we can sell. No risks. If anything seems dangerous, we leave. They pushed off from their ship and floated across the short distance to the alien vessel. Da-Ho carried his tool bag, filled with everything he might need to open doors or restore power. When they reached the other ship, they found a damaged airlock. Can you open it? Captain Jun asked. Da-Ho studied the strange door. I think so. He worked for 10 minutes, using a small laser cutter around the edges. Finally, the door slid open with a hiss. They floated inside, turning on their helmet lights. The interior was cold and dark. No gravity worked here. The air was gone. Their lights showed a wide corridor with high ceilings and walls made of the same strange dark material as outside. This ship is ancient, Hyun whispered, his voice coming through their helmet radios. Look at the dust floating everywhere. They moved deeper into the ship, passing rooms filled with strange equipment. Da-Ho stopped at what looked like a power junction. I might be able to get some emergency lights working, he said. Do it, Captain Jun ordered. The rest of us will look around. While the others explored nearby rooms, Da-Ho opened his tool bag and studied the alien power system. It was unlike anything he had seen before, but he could understand the basic principles. Power in, power out. He worked carefully, connecting his portable battery to what seemed to be the main lines. Suddenly, dim blue lights flickered on in the corridor. "You did it," Captain June called out. "Just temporary," Daho explained. "My battery won't last long." With the lights on, they could see more details of the ship. The walls had faded paintings showing strange landscapes and star patterns. The ceiling was higher than needed for humans. Whoever built this was tall, Taiwan observed. They continued exploring, finding their way to what seemed like a control room. Hyun tried to make sense of the alien controls. "This ship was designed for deep space travel," he said. "These look like navigation systems, but far more complex than ours." Captain June nodded. "Good. Advanced tech means good money. Let's split up. Kyung, go with Hyun and check the upper level. Taiwan, come with me to what might be the cargo area. Daho, see if you can find the engine room." Daho nodded and headed down a different corridor. His lights showed the way to a large door at the end. It was partially open, just enough for him to squeeze through. Inside was a huge room with massive machinery. "This must be the engine room," he said to himself. The strange engines were silent and cold, covered in frost. Daho walked around, examining the alien technology with wonder. That's when he heard it, a soft sound somewhere between a whimper and a growl. Daho froze. "Captain," he spoke into his radio. "I think there's something alive in the engine room." "What?" "That's impossible," Captain June replied. "Nothing could survive this long without air or heat." "I heard something," Daho insisted. He moved his light toward where the sound came from. Behind a large piece of machinery, he found another door. The sound came again, louder this time. Daho hesitated, then pushed the door open. His light fell on a shocking sight. In what looked like a medical room was a large creature. It was chained to the wall and floor with strange metal restraints. The creature looked like a giant cat, taller than a human, with golden fur now matted and dull. But most striking were its eyes, large, intelligent eyes that reflected his light with an amber glow. The creature was alive. Somehow, it was still alive in this dead ship. Daho could see it was breathing inside what must be some kind of life support field. A thin bubble of energy surrounding it. Wires and tubes connected its body to the ship's systems. Its ribs showed through its fur. It had been starving slowly, for who knows how long. Those intelligent eyes looked right at Daho. There was pain in them, but also something else. Hope. "Captain," Daho called into his radio, his voice shaking. "You need to see this. I found someone." Captain June arrived quickly at the engine room, followed by Taiwan. They both stopped when they saw the creature. "Is it dangerous?" Captain June asked, his hand moving to his gun. The alien feline watched them with alert eyes. It made no threatening moves, but its muscles tensed. "I don't think so," Daho said. "Look at these chains. Someone wanted to keep it connected to the ship, not just locked up." Taiwan moved closer, his medical scanner in hand. "Amazing. It's female. She's been here for years, maybe. These implants in her body connect to the ship." Captain June frowned. "So what? We're not here to rescue pets. We need valuable tech." "She's not a pet," Daho said firmly. "Look at her eyes. She understands us." As if to prove his point, the alien blinked slowly and made a soft rumbling sound. Her large paw moved slightly, pointing to a control panel nearby. Hyun and Kyung joined them, their eyes wide at the sight of the alien. "We should leave it and take what we came for," Kyung suggested. "Alien creatures mean trouble." "I'm not leaving her," Daho said. His voice was quiet but firm. Everyone looked at him with surprise. Daho was usually the one who stayed out of arguments. Captain June sighed. "Fine. You try to free it. The rest of us will check the ship for valuable parts. But be careful, Daho." After the others left, Daho approached the alien slowly. "I'll help you," he said, not sure if she could understand. "I'm Daho." The alien watched him with those intelligent eyes, her head tilted slightly. Daho studied the chains and the control panel she had pointed to. The panel still had some power from his battery. Strange symbols glowed on its screen. He touched one, and the screen changed to show what looked like a diagram of the alien's body connected to the ship. They were using you, Daho realized. But for what? He tried different symbols on the screen, watching how the alien reacted. When he touched a blue symbol, she tensed in pain. When he touched a green one, she seemed to relax slightly. Taiwan returned after an hour. The others found some valuable metals in the cargo hold, he said. Then he noticed Daho working on the panel. Any progress? I think so, Daho said. Look at this. He showed Taiwan the diagram. These implants connect her brain to the ship's navigation system. Taiwan's eyes widened. They were using her brain to help navigate the ship. That's horrible. Can you help me disconnect her safely? Daho asked. Taiwan hesitated, then nodded. I'll try. Together, they worked carefully. Taiwan used his medical knowledge to understand how the implants connected to her body. Daho used his mechanical skills to find the right sequence on the control panel. Whatever you're doing, hurry up. Captain Jun's voice came through their radios. Kyung found something. The ship's logs show the crew abandoned this vessel after some kind of sickness spread. That was 80 years ago. 80 years. Daho looked at the alien with new wonder. She's been alone here for 80 years. The alien's eyes seemed to understand. She made a soft sound and moved her paw again, this time pointing to a different door on the far side of the room. What's she trying to show us? Taiwan wondered. We'll find out after we free her, Daho said. It took another hour of careful work. Finally, Daho found the right sequence. The chains clicked open. The tubes connected to the alien's body detached safely, sealing themselves as they pulled away. The life support field remained, keeping her alive in the airless ship. The alien stood shakily. She was even larger than Daho had thought, taller than a human when standing on all fours. Despite being thin from hunger, her muscles showed strength. Her fur was golden with dark stripes, and her face had markings that reminded Daho of a tiger. You need a name, Daho said. I'll call you Mina. It meant beautiful gem in his language, and something about her reminded him of a precious stone. Valuable, rare, and strong. Mina seemed to accept the name. She took a step toward Daho, then stopped, looking at the door she had pointed to earlier. You want to show us something, Daho realized. Lead the way, Mina. Using hand signals, Daho told Captain Jun and the others what was happening. Then he and Taiwan followed Mina through the ship. She moved slowly, still weak from her long captivity. The door led to a part of the ship that wasn't on any of the schematics Hyun had found. It was sealed shut, with no obvious way to open it. Whatever's in there, they'd wanted it hidden, Taiwan said. Mina placed her paw on a panel next to the door. Nothing happened. The system probably needs more power, Daho said. He connected his battery directly to the door controls. The panel lit up, responding to Mina's touch. The door slid open with a groan. Cold air rushed out. Inside was a small room with 3 pod-like containers arranged in a circle. Each pod glowed with a faint blue light. Mina moved quickly to the pods, making a sound that was part purr, part whine. She touched each pod gently with her nose. Are those eggs? Taiwan asked. Daho looked closer. Inside each pod was a small version of Mina. Cubs. They were connected to the ship with smaller versions of the same implants that had held Mina. They're her babies, Daho said softly. She wasn't just pointing to this room. She was asking us to save her children. Captain Jun and the others arrived, drawn by Daho's excited report. More of them. Captain Jun frowned. This complicates things. They're just cubs, Daho argued. We can't leave them. Kyung stepped forward. I found more in the ship's logs. These creatures, the log calls them Suavari, have natural abilities to detect space anomalies. The crew was using them as living navigation systems. That's why they left Mina and her cubs connected when they abandoned ship, Ta-1 realized. They considered them equipment, not living beings. Mina watched them, her eyes moving from the humans to her cubs and back. She understood they were deciding her children's fate. We need to help them, Daho said. All of them. Captain June looked at the cubs, then at Mina. His hard expression softened slightly. It won't be easy. Those pods look complicated. I can figure it out, Daho said confidently. With Ta-1's help. Before Captain June could answer, Hyun's voice came urgently through their radios. Captain, we have a problem. Another ship just appeared on our sensors. It's big, military class. They're hailing us. Captain June cursed. What do they want? They're claiming salvage rights to this vessel, Hyun replied. They've ordered us to leave immediately. Daho looked at Mina, then at her cubs. We can't leave them now. For a long moment, Captain June was silent. Then he nodded. We won't. Daho, you and Ta-1 work on freeing those cubs. The rest of us will buy you some time. As Captain June left to deal with the military ship, Daho turned to Mina. We'll save your children, he promised. All of them. Mina's eyes seemed to say she understood. For the first time, she made a sound that almost seemed like a purr of hope. Daho worked quickly on the first pod while Ta-1 studied the control panel. Mina watched anxiously, her tail swishing back and forth. The cubs are in some kind of sleep state, Ta-1 explained. These machines keep them alive but not fully awake. Can we wake them? Daho asked. I think so, but we need to be careful. They're very young. Captain June's voice came through their radios. The military ship is getting closer. They say this vessel contains valuable research assets that belong to them. They know about the Seovari, Kyung added. They specifically asked about biological navigation components. Daho looked at Mina. They want to use you and your cubs the same way the original crew did. Mina growled softly, her ears flattening against her head. How much time do we have? Daho asked. 20 minutes, maybe less, Captain June replied. They're preparing to dock. Daho turned to Ta-1. We need to work faster. Together, they carefully disconnected the first cub from its pod. The small creature was about the size of a large house cat, with the same golden fur and markings as Mina. Its eyes remained closed as Ta-1 gently removed the implants from its small body. This one is male, Ta-1 said. I'll call him G, Daho decided. He carefully handed the cub to Mina, who took it gently in her mouth. She placed her cub in a makeshift sling Daho had created from his tool bag. They moved to the second pod. This cub was slightly smaller, with lighter fur. Female, Ta-1 noted as they freed her. She looks younger than the first. Then she's Sue, Daho said, adding her to the sling. The third cub was the smallest, another male. They named him Bin. All three cubs remained in a deep sleep, but they were breathing steadily. They'll wake up once they're warm and safe, Ta-1 assured Daho. Their life signs are good. Captain, we got all three cubs, Daho reported. We're ready to move. Get back to our ship now, Captain June ordered. The military vessel is almost here. They're sending a boarding team. Daho helped Mina carry the sling with her cubs. They moved quickly through the corridors of the alien ship, back toward the airlock where they had entered. Wait, Hyun called through the radio. They've positioned their ship to block our exit. They can see our airlock from their position. Is there another way out? Daho asked. There's a second airlock on the lower level, Kyung said. Follow my directions. They changed course, heading deeper into the ship before taking a narrow service tunnel down to the lower level. Mina moved carefully, protective of her sleeping cubs. When they reached the second airlock, they found Captain June waiting with Hyun. The military ship can't see this side, Captain June explained. But we need to move the Lucky Finder to pick us up here. Who's piloting our ship? Daho asked. Wu is, Hyun replied. I'm guiding him remotely. Wu was the ship's communications specialist and backup pilot. His hands weren't as steady as Hyun's, but he could move the ship when needed. They're boarding now, Kyung reported from his position near the main airlock. 5 soldiers, heavily armed. Hurry, Wu, Captain Jun urged through his radio. Daho looked at Mena and her cubs. We're going to need to cross open space, he told her. Can you hold your breath? Mena blinked, seeming to understand. She nuzzled her cubs. I have an idea, Taiwan said. He opened his medical kit and pulled out an emergency pressure bubble. We can put the cubs in this. It will keep them safe for about 10 minutes. They carefully placed the 3 sleeping cubs in the bubble. Mena watched closely, her eyes never leaving her children. And for Mena, Daho asked. I have a spare oxygen mask, Captain Jun said. It's made for humans, but it might work for her. They fitted the mask over Mena's face. It didn't seal perfectly, but it would give her some air for the short trip between ships. They're in the control room, Kyung reported. They know someone's been here. They're following our trail. Wu status, Captain Jun demanded. Almost in position, Wu replied. 30 seconds. Those 30 seconds felt like hours. Daho could hear his own heart beating inside his helmet. Mena stood tensely beside him, her tail twitching. I see them. A distant voice echoed through Kyung's radio. Lower level, second airlock. They've spotted Kyung, Captain Jun said. Wu now. Ready. Wu confirmed. Airlock open and waiting. Captain Jun opened the alien ship's airlock. The air rushed out, pulling them toward the cold emptiness of space. They held on to the edges until the initial rush passed. Go, Captain Jun ordered. Daho took the bubble containing the cubs. Hyun went first, pushing off toward the Lucky Finder, which hovered just 20 meters away. Taiwan followed. Mena, come, Daho urged. The alien hesitated, then leaped gracefully into space. Despite her size, she moved with natural ease in zero gravity. Daho followed with the cubs. Captain, they're coming. Kyung's voice was urgent. 5 seconds. Get to the ship, Captain Jun told him. I'll hold them off. Daho reached the Lucky Finder's airlock. Hyun and Taiwan helped pull him and the cubs inside. Mena followed, her powerful legs pushing her through space with surprising skill. Captain, Kyung, Daho called. He saw them push off from the alien ship just as 2 military soldiers appeared at the airlock. Flashes of light showed they were firing weapons. Kyung made it to the Lucky Finder first. Captain Jun was right behind him, but a shot hit his leg. He spun in space, off course. Without hesitation, Mena leaped back into space. Her powerful body cut through the emptiness like she was born to it. She reached Captain Jun, grabbed his suit with her teeth, and pulled him toward the Lucky Finder. Close the airlock. Captain Jun shouted as soon as they were inside. Wu didn't wait for them to take off their suits. The ship lurched as he fired the engines, pulling away from the alien vessel. They're pursuing, Hyun reported, rushing to the bridge. In the airlock, Taiwan checked Captain Jun's wound. The shot melted the suit but didn't go through. You're lucky. Captain Jun looked at Mina. No, I'm saved. By her. Daho checked the cubs. They were still sleeping, but their small chests rose and fell steadily. They're okay, he told Mina. The ship shook as something hit it. Warning shot, Hyun called from the bridge. They're ordering us to stop and surrender the biological assets. Can we outrun them? Captain Jun asked, limping to the bridge. Hyun shook his head. Their ship is faster and better armed. Everyone fell silent. They had come so far, only to be caught. Then Mina made a strange sound. She placed her paw on the ship's wall, then looked at Daho with those intelligent eyes. What is it, Mina? He asked. She touched the wall again, then pointed to the stars outside the viewport. I think. Daeho said slowly. I think she knows a way out. What do you mean, she knows a way out? Captain Jun asked, holding his injured leg. Daeho looked at Mina, who kept touching the wall and looking at the stars. Remember what Kyung said. The Seoveri can sense space anomalies. I think she knows a safe path. You want us to trust navigation to an alien cat? Kyung asked. The ship shook again as another warning shot passed close by. We don't have many options, Captain Jun said. He turned to Hyun. Can you give her access to the navigation controls? Hyun hesitated, then nodded. I can put the star map on the main screen. They hurried to the bridge. Mina followed, checking on her cubs one last time before leaving them with Taiwan. On the bridge, Hyun brought up a large map of the surrounding space on the main screen. There, Wu pointed. That's the military ship. They're closing fast. Surrender the biological assets immediately. A stern voice came through the communication system. This is Commander Han of the Research Division. You are harboring valuable government property. Captain Jun muted the communication. Property. He spat. They're living beings. Mina stood on her hind legs, her front paws touching the star map. Her eyes focused intently on the display. She touched a point to the right of their position. There's nothing there, Han said. Just empty space. Mina touched it again, more insistently. I think we should trust her, Daeho said. Remember, she can sense things our scanners can't. If we're wrong, we're all dead, Kyung reminded them. Captain Jun looked at Mina, then at the military ship closing in on them. Set course for those coordinates, he ordered. Full speed. Hyun quickly entered the coordinates. The Lucky Finder changed direction, engines straining as they pushed to maximum speed. They're following, Wu reported, and gaining. The military ship was much faster. On the screen, they could see it closing the distance quickly. Whatever Mina has planned, I hope it happens soon, Captain Jun said. As they approached the empty area of space, their sensors began to show strange readings. Something's not right, Hyun said, checking his instruments. The readings keep changing. It's like space itself is folding. Mina made a sound that seemed almost like excitement. She pointed to a specific spot ahead. There, Daeho exclaimed. Do you see it? At first, there was nothing. Then, like a ripple in water, they saw it, a small distortion in space. What is that? Kyung asked. Some kind of natural wormhole, Hyun guessed. A shortcut through space. Our sensors can't detect it properly, but she can. Can we fit through it? Captain Jun asked. I think so, Hyun said, but I'm not sure where it leads. Mina touched another part of the map, far from their current position. She's saying that's where it comes out, Daeho interpreted, near the outer colonies. The military ship was almost upon them. Final warning. Commander Han's voice boomed. Stop your engines or we will fire. Hang on. Captain Jun shouted. Wu, take us in. The Lucky Finder plunged toward the invisible distortion. As they got closer, the ship began to shake violently. Warning lights flashed across the control panels. Hull pressure increasing. Kyung shouted. We're being stretched. Keep going, Captain Jun ordered. Behind them, the military ship fired, but the shot went wild as the strange forces around the wormhole affected its trajectory. The view screen filled with swirling light. Everyone grabbed hold of something as the ship shuddered and groaned. Mina dropped to all fours, her claws digging into the floor for stability. Then, in an instant, everything stopped. The ship gave one final lurch, and they were through. Where are we? Captain Jun asked, looking at the unfamiliar star pattern on the view screen. Hyun checked his instruments. Near the outer colonies, just as she showed us. We traveled hundreds of light years in seconds. And the military ship? Kyung asked. No sign of them, Wu confirmed. I don't think they followed us through. Everyone looked at Mina with newfound respect. She simply blinked her large eyes and turned to leave the bridge. She wants to check on her cubs, Daho said, following her. In the medical bay, Taiwan was examining the 3 cubs. They were beginning to wake up, making small mewing sounds. When Mina entered, they became more active, as if sensing their mother's presence. They're perfectly healthy, Taiwan told Daho. Just weak from being in stasis for so long. The smallest cub, Bin, opened his eyes first. They were the same amber color as his mother's. He made a tiny sound, and Mina responded with a gentle rumble. Soon all 3 cubs were awake, looking around with curious eyes. What happens now? Taiwan asked. We can't exactly drop them off at any port. The military will be looking for them. I have an idea, Daho said. 2 weeks later, the Lucky Finder docked at a small independent research station orbiting a distant moon. The station was run by Director Jun, an old friend of Captain Jun, who believed in ethical research. So these are the Ciovari, Director Jun said, looking at Mina and her cubs with wonder. The cubs were now able to walk and explore, though they stayed close to their mother. And you say they can naturally sense spatial anomalies. Yes, Daho explained, but they shouldn't be used like tools. They're intelligent beings with feelings and families. Director Jun nodded thoughtfully. I agree. We can learn from them without harming them. And they clearly trust you, Daho. It was true. Mina rarely let the cubs out of her sight, but she seemed comfortable when Daho was near. The smallest cub, Bin, had taken to following Daho around the ship whenever possible. I've spoken with Advocate Yun, Director Jun continued. She specializes in sentient rights cases. She believes we can establish legal protection for the Ciovari as an intelligent species, not as property to be exploited. What about the military? Captain Jun asked. They won't give up easily. Let me worry about them, Director Jun said with a smile. I have friends in high places who believe in ethical treatment of all sentient life. Later that day, Daho sat in a special room that had been prepared for Mina and her cubs. The room had climbing spaces and soft places to rest. The cubs were playing, already much stronger than when they first woke up. Mina sat beside Daho, watching her children with contented eyes. Slowly, she placed her large paw on Daho's hand. You're welcome, Daho said softly. I couldn't have left you there. Professor Yun, a xenobiologist working with Director Jun, entered the room carrying a small device. I've been working on this translation tool, she explained. Based on the brain patterns we recorded, it might help Mina communicate more directly. She placed the device near Mina. At first, nothing happened. Then a soft, musical voice came from the device. Thank you, Daho human. You saved my children. You are family now. Daho felt tears in his eyes. Your family too, Mina. 1 month later, Daho stood in his new quarters at the research station. He had accepted Director Jun's offer to stay and work as the station's head mechanic. The Lucky Finder had left 2 weeks ago, with promises from Captain Jun to visit often. From his window, Daho could see the special habitat being built for the Ciovari. Soon, they would have a proper home, with space to run and climb. Professor Yun's translation device was getting better every day, allowing Mina to share stories of her people and their history. A small sound made Daho turn. Bin, the smallest cub, had somehow opened his door and entered his room. The cub looked up at him with those intelligent eyes, then climbed onto a chair and curled up, perfectly at home. Daho smiled. Sometimes family was found in the strangest places, even chained in an abandoned alien ship, drifting among the distant stars.